Hi, good evening if you're in North America. Good morning if you're in Israel. I'm Mayor Weinstein with the Never Again Live Show. I'm joined with Baruch Ben-Yoseph, who is live on BEHAR-BECHUKOTAI on the Temple Mount. We're going to be discussing this week's Parsha. We're also going to be discussing a little bit of Lag BaOmer, and that's finally the Israeli army decided to celebrate Lag BaOmer also in Gaza. We'll get in with this. Baruch, how are you doing tonight?
Great. Got through Lag BaOmer, right? And made it up to the Temple Mount. We have a nice crowd this morning, as you can see here. Maybe the multitudes of Jews. Unfortunately, compared to Meron, we're pathetic. Pathetic. It's just unbelievable. How people, well, as we discussed last week, the replacement Judaism.
Right.
Replacement Judaism. People choose to rather go to Meron, which is no importance other than it being a part of Eretz Israel, part of the land of Israel, which is important in itself. But other than
Right.
that, the only real important place in Israel is here, Temple Mount. As the rabbis tell us in the Mishnah, there are 10 levels of holiness. Okay? All 10 levels of holiness are in the land of Israel. And of course, remember these two portions that we deal with this week, BEHAR and BECHUKOTAI, all deal with the land of Israel. It's the
Right.
equivalent idea behind the motif of the two portions. And so the rabbis tell us in the tractate of Kalim, of vessels, where it talks about holiness and purity and so on. So it says that there are 10 levels of holiness that descended onto the land, and 9 of them took Jerusalem, mostly here in the Temple Mount, and then 1 level of holiness is the rest of the land of Israel. So again, Meron is no more important than anywhere else in the land of Israel. Yeah, the rabbi saying Kaddish now.
Okay.
Amen. ישמור בדברו. Amen. ברוך אמן, ברוך אמן. Okay, so the rabbi just started the morning service here, as of course he was warned by the police not to say any prayers or you know do any Jewish ritual. It's
Right.
unbelievable. It's mind-boggling. And I'd written, Itamar Ben-Gvir, the Minister of Internal Security, and I said, "Isn't it ridiculous? Why don't you just stop this? You're in charge of the police. You can tell them, look, everybody knows already for years now we're praying on the Temple Mount. So stop this absurdity." No, he doesn't even answer the letters. No, it's unfortunate. Finally, we thought we had a minister that might properly deal with the Temple Mount and all these issues, but I guess there's no hope through the Israeli political system. Here's a very holy Jew right here today. Say hi to the Jews throughout the world.
God bless you all. Bless you all from Zion, from real Zion, to all our people. I want all of you to. We're having good thoughts for your blessings and prayers. I want to bless all the people of the world, and especially those that are following the Noahide path. And if you have questions, you could look at the highonthehard.com for information about what we're doing today in terms of the actual what we are performing right now, and the details in English. And we want to wish you well from Zion, and there should be blessings upon all of us and good news everywhere.
Amen. Amen. There you go. You got it here. So a lot of good Jews up here, and they have a lot of good, thoughts and prayers for the Jewish people, and for, of course, our friends amongst the Gentiles who are our friends. Of course, we have nothing good to say about our enemies, except that they should be destroyed. As you mentioned earlier, finally the Israeli army woke up and decided to take action. But you know what's interesting? I'll tell you, Mayor. You see, now if I was in charge, all right, they knocked out these three guys who were the head of the Islamic Jihad, right? Now
Right.
you know what's going to happen the next day. There's going to be this massive funeral in Gaza, and all these guys, all these terrorists, are coming out with their guns, you know, and they're targets. They should be legal targets. They got guns. They're terrorists, and that's the time to attack them. Shouldn't have been one terrorist left standing at the funeral who had a gun on him. And these opportunities, you know, it's like, well, what's the deal? Why aren't they targets? Why are they in less
Right.
targets than the guys that they knocked out with the missiles in their beds?
Yeah.
In fact, I think they're better targets because they're wearing the guns. I'll tell you, it's just amazing. Like there's some kind of unwritten rules. You don't attack a funeral or something. I don't know what it is. You know, but anyhow, that's my take. What do you say about that? What's your opinion? Is there something special about a funeral, a cemetery, or something? You don't attack it?
I don't think we're supposed to have any any feelings for those who want to murder us.
Right.
You know, when you have terrorists there, and yes, those Hamas rallies that exist, or Islamic Jihad, whatever group they want to affiliate with that has similar ideologies to destroy Israel, and they gather at these funerals, and they have their guns and machine guns and their chants to murder Jews. You're right. There's an opportunity for the IDF to take out not just three leaders, but many of the membership of Hamas and the Islamic Jihad.
Right.
It's a question. It's a serious question. You get rid of a lot of the threat if you take away those who are determined to carry on with terrorist attacks against Jews.
Well, you know what's interesting, Mayor? I'll tell you. Oh, you know, of course, 20 years ago, when my son Yehuda, who of course you knew, when he was killed by the Israeli army by mistake, the officer in charge who gave the order, who was in charge of the Judean battalion in Hebron, he said he was asked when they found out that it wasn't the Hamas guys they were looking for, and actually the Shin Bet agent in charge, he said to him, why are you going to kill these guys? Because he said, okay, well, it's not the guys we're looking for. We'll just go and kill them because they got guns. And the Shin Bet guy even said to him, why are you killing them? You don't even know who they are. Why don't you check it out first? He says, they got guns. They're targets. See, they have guns. They have targets. And this weren't even it wasn't even known who they were. Here you have clear, like you said, Hamas or Jihad or whatever they are, terrorists, guns. So they should be legal targets. It's just absolutely mind-boggling.
Yeah.
You know, it should be one Arab should be allowed to walk around anywhere in the land of Israel with doesn't have a legal gun on him. You know, should not be allowed to walk around freely like that. Look who's here. Moshe Feiglin, a good buddy here. There's Mayor Weinstein from Canada.
Hi, Mayor. How are you?
Worldwide.
Hey, Moish, how you doing?
Thank God. Thank God. We are in BEHAR-BECHUKOTAI right now. So I'm explaining here that the connection between Har-HaBayit and the temple to Klal Israel is just like marriage. We call the word for marriage in Hebrew is nisuim, to elevate. We're elevating the connection between man and a woman to a new level. Once you have marriage on that level, not just living together, but a marriage, you created something new from the husband and the wife, from the man and the woman. And this is exactly what we're looking to have again in the entire world, when the connection between HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God, and His world will elevate the entire world to a new level. So we're talking about it here in BEHAR-BECHUKOTAI, and We're going to daven shacharit now, which is something that we could not dream of in the past, but we're going to have tefillat shacharit here in BEHAR-BECHUKOTAI. So you should come to Israel and join us.
I want to say something about
Absolutely.
I want to say something. Over about 30 years ago, I filed a petition to the Supreme Court to stop the Arabs from playing soccer on the Temple Mount. And we got a positive judgment, but the police weren't willing to enforce it. But then Moshe took it about 10 years ago or so, when he was a Knesset member, and he got it enforced. And you see today, the Arabs don't play soccer anymore, thanks to Moshe.
Absolutely. Phenomenal. Fabulous.
At least one thing, we won one.
Fabulous. Thank you, Moish.
Okay, they're gonna pray. I already prayed at the tomb of King David, so I'm gonna move over here to the eastern side, as close as we can get. Because this is see here, we're out front, we're facing the area of the temple here. Unfortunately, right now, there's a building in the way. Won't be there for long.
Right.
It will be the temple. In the meantime, it's in the way. And we're here on the eastern side of Temple Mount, facing west. And we all pray here, okay, openly or quietly. I seem to be bothering people. I mean, everybody's away today. Here, I'll bother the police. In any event, I mentioned before the idea of the levels of holiness. So in the Temple Mount here, there are different levels of holiness. The holiest part is the Holy of Holies, which again, that's over here under the Dome of the Rock, where the stone sits. That's the Holy of Holies, where the Ark was, the Ark of the Covenant, which held within it the original Torah scroll that Moshe received from God, and the tablets and the manna and other things were inside. And we believe that the Ark of the Covenant is buried here under the Temple Mount. It's got to be revealed at some point so that we can restore it to its rightful place. And so these portions, I gotta move away. I'm bothering everybody. This is really bad. But in any event, we have again, we said these two portions this week, BEHAR-BECHUKOTAI, which are really totally connected to the land of Israel. When BEHAR talks about the sabbatical year. The sabbatical year is totally connected to letting the land. The land is so holy that it's like us. It has like a life to itself. Whereas we have 6 days of work and then we have to rest. Okay, we have the 6 days and we have also this and the land has 6 years of work and then we leave it fallow for an entire year because the land needs to rest. And that's how holy the land of Israel is. And so we have this idea of the sabbatical year, which is brought down in the portion of Behar on Mount Sinai. These laws were given, even though they'll be only fulfilled inside the land of Israel, but it was given to us together the rest of the Torah on Mount Sinai. And the portion goes on is a very interesting a law that comes down that I'm sure it's a very important law, which says that when you buy anything or sell anything, it's your obligation to buy or sell from your brother, meaning that you're supposed to buy or sell from a fellow Jew. All right? You're not supposed to go because you're going to get a cheaper price, go to the enemy and buy from them or hire them or sell to them. Okay? That's totally against the Torah. And if you look at Rashi there, Rashi clearly states it in his commentary on the verse there. And this is like, I mean, even the most religious people here in Israel, when you tell them that, they don't want to hear about it. If they can get a better deal to buy from, our enemies, they'd rather save the money or make a better deal. And they'll hire, and they'll also say, well, we have to hire Arabs to do this, to do that, or because Jews don't want to do it, so or they're cheaper labor. I mean, this is really totally outrageous to hire your enemy to help support your enemy, and you're basically giving your enemy the the capability and the potential of living in the land, and by doing so, you're causing us, the Jewish people, to suffer and possibly be thrown out of the land. That's one of the things that Rabbi
Right.
Kahane constantly told us and brought down the famous quote from the Or Chaim HaKadosh, Rabbi Chaim Ben Attar, who was a great commentator on the Torah, a Kabbalist, and he said that the Torah commands us not to leave the enemies in the land. It says even if there was enough room for everybody to live, live and let live. Everybody could live, and nobody would be bothering anybody. He says, no, you're not allowed to leave them here, no matter what. It doesn't matter how much room there is, and how much land there is, and how much prosperity there is. The enemies have to go, and that was Rabbi Khan's message. So, whether the enemies are attacking us or not attacking us, absolutely doesn't matter. So the rabbi now is going to be doing kedusha. Let's see. ברוך שם כבוד, נחותו לעולם ועד. בשם כבוד, נחותו לעולם ועד. קדוש, 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 שומע צמאות. ימלוך עלינו, עיצו, עבודו הביאה. ושוחרר אליהם ימכן אליהם ושלום ועת כן המלך גדול כדי שאתה ברוך אדיני ישראל לעולם ועד העולם ברוך אתה אדיני אוהב קדוש ראש הכבוד מלכתו לעולם ועד התוכן לאדם דף ומלמד עיני חינוך לנבי תחת יחבנה והשכיל ברוך אדיני לישראל לעולם ועד העולם ברוך אתה אדיני פנה לדעת ראש הכבוד לעולם ועד ושבין יבין לצרפך ומקבל מנותן אליו ולשכבה חדרי ולזרוע שלמה לפניך ברוך אדיני ישראל לעולם ועד העולם ברוך אתה אדיני אנחנו נבין כרצון ומפעל לנו מלכין כבודנו כמשבת שלח אותו ברוך אדיני לישראל לעולם ועד העולם ברוך אתה אדיני חממה ולצריח ויבנני מרבה רבינו ולני מרבה מכל תרסיני למען שמך כגמך חזקתו ברוך אדיני לישראל לעולם ועד העולם ברוך אתה אדיני ויהיה לישראל וידעתי אדיני ולרפא ושיינו ולבשל תפילתנו ועליהם כל תאמר לך תפלנו לך מחבנו לך מכיסנו יגן מלך לפני מון ואחרון אתה ברוך אדיני לישראל לעולם ועד העולם ברוך אתה אדיני וישך עליהם בישראל The Kohanim are getting ready here. ושיבה שובתנו דבר שנה ויתנו חברת הכלא ועשה ממנו יגאל ואנחנו מנחלים אתה אדיני לבדך בחסד ורחמים בצדק ומשפט והחלטת מערכת המשפט הקלוקלת מישראל כי אוהב משפט צדק ואתה ברוך אדיני לישראל לעולם ועד העולם ברוך אתה אדיני אוהב צדק ומשפט ולמה שעומדים אל תספור וכל המילים כרגע ודי ופלגה מחר מירה יקרייסו ומלכוס עדיין לכל הדתים מרוע סקר שפרס מורכבת לפני אבין מרוע בימינו וכאלה שופטים שתרים גבוהים מישראל ימחו בסעיף החיים וצדיקים וליקוסי בו ברוך אדיני לישראל לעולם ועד העולם ברוך אתה אדיני שלבי הרעבים לפני עתידים על הצדיקים והחסדים ולפני המחוג ישראל ולפני הספר למען גאה הצדיק ועלינו יאמרו חמר אדיני אלינו נתן שכתה ולאחר ותכם שכחה בבטת יחנקנו עמהם ולעלו עליהם ושכחה ותחנו ברוך אדיני לישראל לעולם ועד העולם ברוך אתה אדיני משענו מבטח הצדיקים ירושלים בכל מהחומת וזיכם את החוק אשר דיברת ונעשה בעניין אלום בימינו ברוך אדיני לישראל לעולם ועד העולם ברוך אתה אדיני בני ובשלוים שמח דוד עבדך ומברך תצמיח קנה תרום משפטך כלשפטך קיווינו כל היום ברוך אדיני
ורחמים ותן תפילתנו כי ישמע תפילת סחנונים אתה ולפניך מלכנו וכמה תשמענו חננו ועלינו שבת תפילתנו כי אתה שומע תפילתנו ורחמים ברוך אדינו לישראל מנהלו ועד אילם ברוך אתה אדינו שומע תפילו וציה אדינו אלינו מלכה ישראל ותפילתם ושמע ודמינו בזר ושתי ישראל תפילתם מרוב ותקבל ברצון ועשי לרצון תמיד עבדת ישראל וכל ישראל ולפניך תפירתנו כל האוף קורבן אנו רחום ברחמך רבים אשר שנפל ג'נפך שנעבדה לירושלים שעלה אותך וירום שחומר לפניך ברוך אדינו לישראל מנהלו ועד אילם ברוך אתה אדינו שסך לבדך בירון הבית
Okay, here we are here. The Kohanim are now about to give us the blessing.
ברוך אדינו לישראל מנהלו ועד אילם ברוך אתה אדינו אתה ישמך ולפני אליי כהנים
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם ישראל באהבה
וברכך אדינו
אדוני
ישמרך
ישמרך
יאר
אדוני
פניו אליך
יכולך יישא
אדינו פניו
פניו
אליך
ויעשה לך
שלום אם שלום דבר ברכה וחסד ורחמים עלינו על של ישראל מלך וקדושך ולכלך ולך נשאך וכן נביאנו כל נזכור ופניך ופניך נשאת לנו הדין עלינו יראת חיים המסתף של זכר ברכה ורחמים וחיים ושלום תהי בעיניך לברך דמך ישראל וחלק שמך בבניך ברוך אדינו לישראל לעילם ועד אילם ברוך אתה אדינו ברוך שמו ישראל בשלום אמן ברוך שם גואל מלכותו לעילם ועד.
There we have it. You heard it here. The morning service, Shacharit, in its entirety from the Temple Mount. Who would have, a few years ago, who would have thought it? And
Right.
We have our lovely Mishmar Gvul police women. In fact, you heard what happened the other day. This border policewoman was found guilty for using too much force on Arabs. But despite the fact she was found guilty, the commander of the police and Ben-Gvir and the other police put her back on duty, which is amazing. You know.
Yes.
השוטרת, איך קוראים לה? קליפה? כן. זה לא עניין לכם? לא. So they don't want to give their opinion on it, but this is a very good thing that I have to give them credit for putting her back, because in a situation like that where they found her guilty in a disciplinary board, usually they just throw her out of the police, but she was put back on duty. So that's at least one positive thing that we can say, that in Ben-Gvir, in that position of being the Minister of Internal Security, he was able to put her back. It's unfortunate that she had to go through it, using force on our enemies. That should be that should give you a medal, not a discipline.
Exactly.
So, a piece of good news for a change.
Yes.
So here we are. We just finished praying again after being warned not to pray. We all had a prayer with a minyan, and it's really amazing. So back to the portion. So the portion is basically about living in the land of Israel. Both portions. The interesting, the end of Bahar, the first portion that we read, Bahar, has the final verse of the portion says, Shabtotai tishmoru umikdashi tirau. It says, your Sabbaths should be guarded, and your temple should be awed. Okay? Interesting that in one verse you have both the Shabbat, the Sabbath, and you have the temple. Really, you would say, what's the connection? I mean, the Sabbath is something that we keep every week throughout the world. It's a commandment connected to time, right? Well, every 7 days. And the Mikdash, the temple, is connected to space. It's not connected to time.
Right.
Really, you'd say like see the connection. So years ago, there used to be a guy Kohen. He used to come to the Temple Mount every day. He was actually a mathematician, and he had come up with this theory. I call it theory. It was called the time to place the Shabbat to the temple connection. He says basically the two elements of time and space. The object is to make them holy, right? That's our goal in life. To make things holy. We want to make the time holy. We want to make the space holy. Unlike maybe other religions, other nations, and all that, we believe that the most mundane things have to be made holy. That's our mission. That's our goal. So the idea of making a time holy means that once a week, or every time there's a holiday, 3 times a year, a few times a year, time stops. Kind of like time stops. We're no longer time is money. You got to work. You got to make
Right.
money. You can't waste your time. No, time, it kind of stops from moving, and now the time that there is used for doing holy things like praying and studying Torah and singing praise to God and things like that. Having meals with the family that are meant to bring the family together to speak words of Torah and to educate the next generation to what it means to be holy. So that's the Sabbath, and it has a connection to the temple in the sense that the temple is making space holy. Space meaning the physical space. That there's one place in the world that goes beyond the laws of nature. And how do we see that? Let's just say the Temple Mount, when the temple existed, it said that the Jews would come up, let's say on the holidays, and they'd be standing like one next to each other because there was so many Jews that came up, and it was such a small space that they stood crowded. But when they would pray, when they would bow down during the prayer, everybody had space, like beyond nature. But that's the idea. Just like the Sabbath is beyond nature when it comes to time. Like time stops, it goes beyond time.
Right.
Does the temple defy space, so that all kinds of rules of nature that would normally apply to anywhere don't apply here. When there's a temple and things are functioning like they're supposed to, it says that even if there was a wind, the smoke from the altar that would go up from these sacrifices, the wind couldn't blow the smoke because it was beyond nature. And all kinds of things like that defy nature exist on a Temple Mount. So we have this time to space connection between Shabbat and the Mikdash, and that's basically what that verse is coming to tell us. Those are the two elements that really make us the Jewish people, that make us a special nation. Is the Sabbath, the making the time holy, and the Mikdash making the space holy. And unfortunately, I think most people miss it. They don't understand the concept. They miss the concept. I mean, but it's really basic. And that's what we're here for, to make things holy. Actually, Rabbi Cook, the famous Rabbi Avraham Yitzhak Cohen Cook, wrote a lot of important Torahs on the idea of making the space holy, making the land holy. Here, the rabbi now is giving his Torah. I'll translate
הוא
it.
נמצא בחלק הראשון של הפרשה, הוא נמצא אני מדבר על פרשת בחוקותיי, והוא נמצא בהמשך בחלק של תחילת הכללות. הוא מדבר שיש שתי דברים, בחוקותיי תלכו ואת מצוותיי תשמרו ועשיתם אותם. הוא חוזר על זה, וגם ואם בחוקותיי תמאסו, ואם את מצוותיי תגאל נפשכם. ובשתי הדברים האלה הוא מדבר על החלק של התורה, עסק התורה. אם בחוקותיי תלכו זה שתהיו עמלים בתורה, ואת מצוותיי תשמרו. אבל אני רוצה לקרוא את הספרה בתורת כהנים, מה שרש"י גם מעתיק, זה בתחילת הכללות. אני רוצה להתחיל משם, בגלל ששם מדובר על 7 שלבים שבן אדם מגיע עד שהוא כופר בעיקר התורה. אם לא תשמעו לי, מה תלמוד לומר לא תעשו, וכי יש לך אדם שאינו למד אבל עושה? תלמוד לומר, ואם לא תשמעו ולא תעשו, או כל שאינו למד אינו עושה, או יש לך אדם שאינו למד ואינו עושה, אבל אינו מואס באחרים. בסדר, לא למד לא עושה, אבל יש אחרים שעושים, שהם יעשו מה שהם רוצים, תלמוד לומר, ואם בחוקותיי תמאסו. כלל, כל שאינו למד ואינו עושה, סוף שהוא מואס באחרים. או יש לך שאינו למד ואינו עושה הוא מואס באחרים, אבל אינו שונא את חכמים. תלמוד לומר, ואם את משפטיי תגעל נפשכם. או כל שאינו למד ואינו עושה ומואס באחרים, סוף שהוא שונא את החכמים. יש לך אחד שכבר עבר את כל 4 שלבים האלו, זהו, הוא סיים, אבל מניח לאחרים לעשות. תלמוד לומר, לבלתי עשות. שלב חמישי זה שהוא כבר לא עושה וגם לא מניח לאחרים לעשות. שלב שישי, אז אם הוא לא מניח לאחרים לעשות, אבל הוא מודה שיש כזה דבר מצוות שנאמרו מסיני, תלמוד לומר, את כל מצוותיי. כל שאינו למד ואינו עושה מואס באחרים ושונא חכמים ואינו מניח לאחרים לעשות, סוף שהוא קובר במצוות שנאמרו מסיני. אבל יש לך את כל הדברים, אדם שיש לך את כל המידות האלו, אבל אינו כופר בעיקר, תלמוד לומר להפריכם את בריתי. הכל שיש לו כל המידות הללו, סוף שהוא כופר בעיקר. לכאורה, המאמר הזה הוא מאמר מרכזי, כמובן יסודי, רש"י אומר שכל הכללות מבוססות על 7 פעמים 7, שיש למצוא את החשבון, אנחנו מגיעים ל7 פעמים 7, לא כל כך ברור, רש"י מתחיל בהתחלה ב2-3 הראשונים, הוא כן מגיע ל7, אחרי זה הוא לא כל כך מסביר איך זה.
אתה אומר במפורש שזה 7.
אבל התורה אומרת 7 על חטאותיכם, אז ההבנה, אפשר להבין 7, קצת במקרא, 7 כוונה מלשון ריבוי, אבל רש"י רוצה להסביר כל פעם את 7, ולכן משם זה בא שגם אנחנו רוצים למצוא שיש 7 נושאים. לכאורה, אבל מי שלא לומד את התורה, שזה השלב הראשון, אז הוא לא יגיע אף פעם לפרשת בחוקותיי, וודאי לא לתורת כהנים וגם לא לרש"י, הוא לא לומד את התורה. אז על מי מדובר? אל מי מדובר? אל מי שכן לומד את התורה. מי שלומד את התורה, אז הוא כבר בשלב הראשון, הוא כבר נמצא בחוקותיי תלכו, ומאיר, מצוותיי תשמעו. ראיתי אתמול רעיון, ואני חושב שקצת לפתח אותו בכיוון אחר מהבסיס שראיתי. העיקרון זה יכול להיות גם במצווה אחת, זה יכול להיות גם במצווה צדדית אפילו. יש לפעמים בן אדם, בגלל שהוא לא לומד את המצווה הזאת, כמובן בשורשה, היינו מהתורה ודברי חכמים, לפי הסדר, כלומר תורה, נביאים כתובים, מה שקיבל תורה מסיני, סדר המסירה, זוגות, חכמי המשנה, חכמי התלמוד, גאונים וראשונים ואחרונים. בן אדם שלא לומד את המצווה הזאת בצורתה, אז כמובן הוא לא יכול לעשות אותה. אבל יכול להיות בן אדם שהוא לא לומד, והוא לא עושה את המצווה, אבל הוא אומר, טוב, מי שחושב שזה מצווה, בסדר. אבל לרוב אדם שהוא בסוף לא לומד ולא עושה, בסוף הוא מואס באחרים שעושים. ואחרי שהוא מואס באחרים שעושים, הוא גם מפריע להם לעשות. ואחרי זה הוא שונא את החכמים שעושים את המצווה הזאת. וקודם הוא שונא את החכמים, אחרי זה הוא מניח לאחרים לעשות, הוא לא מניח להם לעשות. אחרי זה הוא כופר כבר שהמצווה הזאת לא נאמרה מסיני, ואחרי זה הוא כבר מפר. ככה זה הסדר. וכלפי מה הדברים אמורים? אני אסביר. אני מסביר את התורת כהנים, על פי המאמר. כלפי מה הדברים אמורים? זה קשור באמת לעניין הזה של מקדש ועבודת המקדש, ו200 לפחות, אם לא יותר, ושל מצוות שקשורים לבית המקדש. אם זה מצוות, כמובן, מצוות עבודת המקדש שמחולקים למצוות אותם, אפשר לדון גם כמה מצוות נמצאים בתוך כל מצווה ומצווה. למשל מצוות עולה כוללת בתוכה מצוות צמיחה, שחיטה, קבלה, הזעה, זריקה כאילו, הפשט וניתוח, רחיצת קרע וקרביים, העלאת האיברים למזבח, יש, לכל מצווה יש הרבה פרטים. וזה נכלל ברמב"ם במצווה אחת, מצוות עשה עולה, אבל יש כלול הרבה מצוות, כולל בתוכו אגב גם מצוות לבישת בגדים ורחיצת ידיים ורגליים של הכהנים וכולו, ואני לא אגמור. יש לנו הרבה מצוות שקשורים למקדש, ויש הרבה אנשים שהזניחו את העניין של המקדש, אבל הזניחו מרצון, לא בגלל, לפעמים יוצא שיש תורה, תרי"ג מצוות, שיש להם, בסדר, לא כל אחד יכול בכל מצווה ומצווה לרדת לכל פרטיה ודקדוקיה, מחויבים במצוות בגיל 13, כשבקושי, בזמן המשנה ודאי, היו בקיאים בקושי במקרא וחצי משנה, איפה מבקשים, אבל במשך החיים אנשים, אז יש אנשים שמשקיעים במצווה א', משקיעים במצווה ב', אבל כל הזמן משקיעים, כל המצוות מתייחסים אליהם. אבל יש הזנחה במצוות המקדש אותם מניחים בצד, יש כאלו שעוסקים בהם ויש כאלו שלא עוסקים בהם. ובפועל מה זה יוצר? שמי שלא עוסק בענייני מקדש באיזשהו שלב, הוא לא עושה. מה זה נקרא לא עושה? הרי במצוות המקדש קצת קשה לנו לעשות, אבל הוא לא פועל למען העשייה, בגלל שהוא לא למד, אז הוא לא יודע שזה דבר כזה חשוב. ואז קורה, לא לומד ולא עושה עוד בסדר. אבל הוא לא מואס באחרים. יש שלב שלישי, שבנאדם כבר שהזניח את זה כל כך. עד כדי כך שזה לא מעניין אותו העשייה, אז הוא גם מואס באחרים שכן פועלים למען המקדש. ופה זה שלב שלישי שעוד זה, ואז אחרי זה ממשיך לשנוא את החכמים שעוסקים בעניין המקדש, וממשיך הלאה ומפריע להם לבלתי עשות, ואז הוא כופר שהמצוות האלו כבר לא נאמרו מסיני. לא השחיטות האלו, וכל הדברים האלו, ואז הוא מפר ברית וכופר ברית. זה דבר, נראה לי, שהמסר הזה בפרשה, לשלבים שעוברים אחד אחרי השני, זה יכול להיות בין אם מדובר, עכשיו דיברתי על המקדש, זה יכול להיות בין אם מדובר באמת אם בחוקותיי תלכו, שתהיו עמלים בתורה. יש כאלה שאומרים, יש תורה, צריך לטפלים בתורה, אנחנו רוצים מאיתנו. גם בזה יש. אז בהתחלה הוא לא לומד, אז הוא לא יודע שזה מה שצריך לעשות. אז הוא כמובן לא עושה את זה והוא לא עוסק בתורה. ואז הוא גם מפריע לאחרים שעושים ושונא את מי שעושה את זה וכן הלאה, עד שהוא מפר ברית. מי שרוצה לא להיכשל בדברים האלו, בחוקותיי תלכו ובמצוותיי תשמרו ועשיתם אותם. כלומר, ללכת בחוקות התורה, את המצוות לשמור ועשיתם אותם ולעזור לאחרים שעושים. כל אחד לפי דרגתו, לפי מה שהוא יכול, יש הרבה שלבים בלימוד התורה, יש הרבה דרגות, זה לא בבת אחת קופצים, ישר יש קפיצות, אבל לדעת שאנחנו הולכים בחוקותיי, ללכת בכל מצווה ומצווה, לנסות ללכת בדרך התורה, וככה ממילא זה יוביל גם לעשייה, וכמובן כל אחד לסום דרגתו זה יגיע גם לידיעת התורה לפי מה שהוא יכול, וגם לעשייה, ואז כמובן לעזור לאחרים שעושים, וכל שכן וחלילה לא למאוס באחרים שעושים. הקדוש ברוך הוא יעזרנו, שיקוים בנו כל הברכות הכתובים בפרשת השבוע, בתחילת הפרשה. יש קצת ברכות והרבה כללות. שאל אותי שאלה ששואלים אותה הרבה, למה יש קצת ברכות והרבה כללות? אני אגיד מה שאני אוהב לומר, אני לא זוכר אם ראיתי את זה מפורש בדיוק כך, או שונה קצת. העולם כולו עולם של ברכה. כשהקדוש ברוך הוא מברך אותנו, הוא אומר, יהיה לכם עולם רגיל. לא צריך כל כך לפרט. בכללות צריך להגיד לך, יש שינוי בזה, יש שינוי בזה, יש שינוי בזה. ולכן, בפירוט, בכללות, יש הרבה יותר. דוגמה, אני אתן אדם שיש לו התקף לב. יש לו תרי"ג איברים, רמ"ח איברים. איבר אחד, יתפשט. כל הגוף שלו כבר, יכול להיות גם בהתקף לב, יכול להיות גם ריאה, דלקת ריאות, יכול להיות כל מיני דברים. אבל הגוף כולו שלם. הברכה היא שכל הגוף יישאר שלם, מה נשאר להוסיף על זה? אז לכן, בכל אופן, הברכות הכוונה שלא יהיה כללות. אז הקדוש ברוך הוא באמת יברך אותנו, שנוכל באמת לקרוא את כל המצוות, יכול לנו כל ברכות בתורה, וכמו שהגמרא אומרת בסוף מסכת מגילה, תכלה שנה וקללותיה, זה הולך גם על פרשת בחוקותיי, שמסתיימת איזושהי שנה שקשור לחג השבועות, שיבוא עוד שבועיים, אז יברכנו ותחל שנה וברכותיה. עכשיו יש לנו גם הזדמנות, אחרי שדיברנו קצת על הברכות, אז יש לנו פה שתי ברכות, כל ישראל צריכים ברכה, אבל יש פה שתי ברכות מיוחדות. דבר ראשון, יש לנו פה אבא שבא פה חתונת ביתו, השוכן במקום הזה יברך את האבא שיראה נחת מהבית שמוקם, יברך את הכלה שתבנה את ביתה בית נאמן בישראל, בית של אהבה ואחווה ושלום ורעות, בית של שמחה ואושר, בית של בנים ובנות, ועוד שנה היא תבוא לפה עם קורבן יולדת לבית המקדש, בשמחה, עם תינוק חמוד בעגלה, בשמחה בטוב לבב. יש לנו גם אחת שהגיעה לכבוד יום הולדתה ה-20, אז השוכן במקום הזה יברך אותה, שיהיה לה עוד הרבה שנים טובות, שמחות, מאושרות, נמצא זיווג עגול מהר, ובני בית נאמן, ושיהיה לה תמיד שמחה ותורה ויראת שמיים.
רבי חנניה בן הקדושה. גדל והתקדש השם הרבה, ועמד יברך חירותי, מניח מלכותי, וצמח כל קנה וקרב משיחי. חי יכון ונכון, חי לכל בית ישראל, בזמן קריב עמו אמן.
Amen. Yeshua, Lord, Lama, Amen, Yisrael.
שמי לקודשה בריחו, לעולם כל חתירתה, תשפטה ונחלתה, דמן ואמה במו אמן. ישראל והתלמידינו וכל תלמידי תלמידינו וכל מהנדסקים רואה את דיבה התראה קדישה עדיהם וכל אתר ואתר. יהיה לנו נכון שלום הרב הכינה וכריסטה רחמי אחרי חזינו וברקונה שמיה והרב ואמו אמן. יש לנו רבים טובים עלינו וכל ישראל ואמו אמן. עשה שלום וברכה ועשה שלום עלינו וכל ישראל ואמו אמן.
Amen.
Okay. Let me translate what the rabbi said while Moshe Feiglin talks. The rabbi says something very, very interesting. He's speaking a little bit longer than he usually does, but there's a very important. He was talking about the second portion of the week, BEHAR-BECHUKOTAI. If you keep my laws, the Torah starts. The portion starts. If you keep my laws and guard them and do them, then God will give us all the blessings. Will give us peace in the land and all the blessings that he said. It's interesting. He says that the blessings are very few, and then later in the portion there are lots of curses if you don't keep the Torah, if you don't keep the laws. So he says it's interesting. Why are there so few blessings and so many curses? And he said that he said really that God gave us the land. It's like the blessing is already built in. It's built into the creation. It's really just do what he says and it's automatically blessed. Whereas if you don't do what he says, then it's and then you're causing all of these things to go wrong. And that's where the problem is created. So in other words, the nature is naturally good, and we harm it. We cause the evil to occur because we don't follow what God commanded us. So it's a very interesting take. But more importantly, when he spoke about the fact that the portion we said starts off is if you keep the Torah and you guard the Torah and you keep the laws, that you'll get all these blessings. And then later on, when we talk about the curses, it tells us if you don't keep the Torah, all these things will happen. All these catastrophes. And he said that the Rashi brings down that there are really basically seven stages of things. In other words, it starts off with somebody doesn't keep the Torah, and then from not keeping the Torah, he doesn't do the commandments, and not doing the commandments, then he doesn't he disdains people who do keep the commandments, and he keeps getting worse and worse to the point where finally he becomes like a heretic. He doesn't believe anymore in God. But it just keeps getting worse and worse from starting off from not keeping the Torah and not learning the Torah, not keeping it, not understanding how to perform it. You get to the point where you hate the people who keep the Torah, you hate the rabbis who teach you to keep the Torah, and so on and so forth. And he said that that there's a book called Torah Kohanim. It's a book of it's like a commentary on the book of Vayikra, book of Leviticus that we're finishing this week, and it says there that this applies not just keeping the entire Torah, but even one mitzvah, one commandment. If there's one commandment that a person, as far as he's concerned, I don't have to study the commandment. It's not important. Then what's going to happen to him is that he's not going to ever keep it. And not he's not going to keep it, but he's going to look down on people that want to keep it. He's going to look down on the rabbis who teach you to keep it. And he's going to get to the point where he becomes a heretic, even though he keeps the rest of the Torah. And the rabbi applied this idea to the mitzvah that we're dealing with here, which is the temple. Even though when you think about it, the temple is really hundreds of mitzvahs, hundreds of commandments, because there's so many things connected, so many commandments connected to the temple service. And 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 he mentioned like just bringing one sacrifice, okay, which is one mitzvah. Like the Maimonides says, it's one mitzvah, but when you look at it, it involves you have to perform at least 10 other mitzvahs to fulfill the commandment. So he basically said that this is what happens when we take something like the temple, okay, the temple commandment, which is a clear commandment from God that we have to build a temple, even after it was destroyed twice, we still have to rebuild it. The Maimonides obviously brings it down as a commandment that has to be done in every generation. And when you have the ability to do it, you should first of all know how to do it. You should have studied it to know how to do it, and you should want to do it, and you should do everything possible you can to perform it. And if you do so, then you listen to the rabbis who teach you how to do it, and you want to facilitate for other people to do it, and then you're serving God. But if you don't, which is unfortunately the case for what goes on today, is that even the biggest rabbis, they don't study it. They tell people it's not a commandment. It's not relevant anymore, and to the point where they look down and curse the people that want to perform the commandment, want to rebuild the temple, that want to do the service of the temple. And it's so true. It's just that's the way it is. So you find like the chief rabbi of Israel, Rabbi Lau. I told you recently. I think I mentioned it a few weeks ago. He was interviewed about why the chief rabbinate is not doing anything about dealing with the Temple Mount, Jews going up to the Temple Mount, and why don't they have any hearings on it, and and so that I can facilitate Jews going up to the Temple Mount without going to places they shouldn't be going, and so on and so forth. And his thing was, well, none of the big rabbis go up there anyhow, and the only reason they go up there is to do a sacrifice, and we're not doing sacrifices, so it's not important. It's exactly what the rabbi here, Rabbi Weber, just taught us. It's exactly what he meant. Here's the chief rabbi of Israel, and his attitude is, it's not important. It's not relevant. What's relevant is giving kashrut certificates to restaurants. That's what's important, and collecting the money, of course, because that's what it's all about. It's all about the money. So that's where we stand. We're faced with this problem of and I mentioned before the famous Or Chaim, Rabbi Chaim Ben Attar, who said he wrote that in the final days the leaders and the rabbis will pay for neglecting Hashem's house, God's house, and not doing what needs to be done to bring back God's house. That's what we're here for. We're here because before our houses, God's house comes before our house, and we're here to restore God's house, the temple, and the service. And despite the fact that it doesn't interest most people, but in the end, we know that'll be everything. Everything will be how to serve God in the temple, how to restore the things that were. That's the third house, the third temple. So the book of BEHAR-BECHUKOTAI, the portion of BEHAR-BECHUKOTAI, which was actually my bar mitzvah portion, deals with that. And I was looking at Rabbi Kahana, what he wrote on the on BEHAR-BECHUKOTAI, because he writes a lot about it, because again, remember, Rabbi Kahana was like a prophet. Okay, and like most prophets, what are prophets coming to do, for the most part, is to rebuke the people, to have them return to serve God, to stop doing the evil things they're doing. That's what Rabbi Kahana really was, was trying to tell us. Do the right thing. Don't do the wrong thing. Do the right thing, and you'll be redeemed. You'll be redeemed, wondrously with miracles. If you do the wrong thing, you'll be punished terribly. And either way, there'll be redemption, because, as he points out, and unfortunately people don't understand this, is that the whole idea of redemption is for the sake of God's name. He said the sanctity of His name. His name has been profaned, right? We call it the Chilul Hashem. His name has been profaned through the exile of 2,000 years, where the Gentile, our enemy, thought that he could just, persecute us and stamp on us and all the things that we know, all the things that were done to the Jewish people throughout the generations. And he would say, "Where's your God now, Jew?" Right? And that's what Rabbi Kahana told us. That's that was the profanity of God's name, and the whole purpose of us coming back to the land and rebuilding the land and creating an army and all these things that are going on our sake. We don't deserve it, but it's for God to make God's name holy, to sanctify God's name. And so if we understand that, then we can understand everything that goes on. And if we don't understand that, then we miss the whole point. So he says, basically, from this portion, he's saying how this portion really delineates the entire concept that he was pushing from the ideas of Isaiah the prophet, whereas you can have redemption in two ways: speedily and through miracles and happiness, or you could have it, or it could be dragged out, and you have to go through trials and tribulations till you'll finally get redeemed. And that God, in His mercy, He extends the time to give us another opportunity, to give us more opportunities to try to get to a situation where we merit the redemption. So even if we don't totally merit it, things that we do can help speed things up and make the redemption easier. So here we are, right, in the 75 years of liberation from the War of Liberation in 1948. 56 years. We'll be celebrating next week, next Shabbat, next Friday. We'll be celebrating 56 years of redemption of Jerusalem and the Temple Mount, the Six-Day War. And unfortunately, things are just being dragged out because of our inability or unwillingness to do what must be done to make the redemption happen. Redemption is not going to happen as long as things like that stand in the way. Okay?
Right.
Those things stand in the way of the redemption. God does not want that building on His holy house. Okay? Obviously, it's a job for the state of Israel, the government of Israel, to decide that this building will be replaced by the temple. And all the things here that exist, we see these buildings that exist here on top of the Temple Mount, be removed and replaced with what existed in the temple: the altar, the sanctuary, everything in it, and the Holy of Holies, and so on. So here we are, it's right in front of us. It's like staring us in the face and saying, when's it going to happen? When will it finally be? When will the Jews finally wake up and realize that it's in our hands, and that if we did what God told us to do, nobody could stand in our way? That's the amazing thing. Everybody's afraid that we'll cause World War III or something. That's the exact opposite. The nations of the world will bow down to us and accept that we're doing the right thing, we're bringing peace to the world, because then in the portion of BEHAR-BECHUKOTAI, what does it say? It says, if you do what I told you to do, there'll be peace. There's not going to be peace if we don't do what he tells us to do.
Right. Right.
Right. So it's the exact opposite of what everybody thinks. It's not going to create World War III. It's going to create world peace. That's the message from BEHAR-BECHUKOTAI. You want world war, or you want world peace? So as we see now, we're headed towards world war. That's the way things look, because we're not doing what we're supposed to do, and things keep looking, for what's going on between Russia and Ukraine and other places. It keeps not that I'm so upset about these enemies of Israel killing each other, okay, but certainly they were not no great friends of the Jewish people.
Right.
From the Holocaust and before the Holocaust and after. But regardless to say, there's a bigger picture. The bigger picture is that the world is headed to a world war, and the only way to stop it is right here. It's in the hands of the Jewish people to restore the temple, restore the service, bring peace to the world. Have the Kohanim, our holy Kohanim, bless the entire world. That's what they want, right? You want world peace, right? There you go.
We are peace.
Jewish
people are peace.
There we go.
We need the vessels to put into the world.
Exactly.
Ask any Jew what he wants, and he'll talk about world peace, personal peace. All he wants is peace. But we can't bring it into the world without the vessels that God created that exactly mirror the upper temple, right? Until we have the vessels down here that are being used in the world of action, we can't manifest God's peace.
Wow. You heard it here.
Right. Absolutely.
Very, very heavy stuff. Here's you heard from a Kohen who comes every day to the Temple Mount. Every day he's here. He'll be one of the top Kohanim. Maybe the Kohen Gadol. Who knows? Maybe we're talking right here to the Kohen Gadol. You never know. So now we've gone to the northern side of the Temple Mount, headed towards the western side. As we know, the western side, all the sides of the Temple Mount were expanded, except for the eastern side. The eastern side, said the wall is the original wall for the time of Solomon's temple. All the other walls were extended in time of Herod, and which, as we mentioned before, is a good reason why people have no excuse to come up here, because there are places you can come up here aren't even the Temple Mount. I mean, you're technically on what they call the Temple Mount today, but it's not even part of the holy part of the Temple Mount. They're Herodian extensions. So here we're getting an opportunity today we'll be seeing the real Western Wall, not the Herodian one outside that everybody goes and prays at, but the real one that is the Arabs tried to hide it by building around it. We'll see it in a minute or so. We'll see the real wall. We'll be standing on top of it, actually, and that's it's important. I mean, the people, a lot of people don't know this, and tell us to people, and they're shocked. They're shocked. They have no idea.
Right.
They think that the Western Wall is the real thing, and it's not. Here we are. So now I'm going to show you guys. Here's the real wall. Okay, you see here? There's this wall here is the real Western Wall. All right, and you see the Arabs built a floor next to it, and here's the steps, and this is the real wall, not the one outside. That's the fake wall. Okay.
This is growing. All this is.
Right.
So. Got to the western side now, as we're going to complete soon our. Okay, and so in Bechukotai, we have, like I said, we have the blessings, we have the curses. At the end of the portion, we have an interesting mitzvah which is called erchin. Erchin is a tractate in the Talmud. It's about people. Everybody has a value. Erech in Hebrew means value. Everybody has a value, and people had a value based on who they were and how old they were, and and people would give donations based on their value. It's an interesting concept. In other words, so by giving the amount of money or the amount of silver based on what your value was, you kind of redeemed yourself. And that's towards the end of the portion. And then we have the Haftorah, from the prophet Yirmiyahu, Jeremiah. Again, before I stated how Rabbi Kahana was like a prophet who rebuked the people. That's what Jeremiah. Rabbi Kahana would love to quote Jeremiah, who was a prophet of rebuke after he lived in a time towards the end of the Second Temple, when everything was going down. He was actually thrown in jail by the king for telling the truth, what's going to happen. They didn't want to hear what was going to happen. By not hearing what was going to happen, they were in denial, and ultimately the destruction came. They would have listened to the prophet, even if there would have been, even if the temple would have been destroyed, even if there was no way to stop it, the damage would have been a lot less severe. By not listening to him and thinking that people aren't going to pay for the things that they do wrong. That to the point where even this portion talks about, the portion of Bahar talks about slavery, and interestingly, the prophet Jeremiah spoke about the fact that he told the people to release your slaves, and they released their slaves, and then they took them back. They took the slaves back, they're thinking that they can get away with it. Like, you can just play just like trick God or something. That you can get away with something like that, and that's a problem. People think they can get away with it. They can trick God. Well, we'll do what we want as long as we eat in a kosher restaurant. And
Right.
And Rabbi Kahana really comes down. I'll tell you, if you look in what he writes about these portions, he really comes down on the living in the exile and not coming back to the land, thinking that, well, I can live well in the exile, and I can be part of a synagogue, and I can be part of a community, and I don't have to live in the land. I don't have to sacrifice to live in the land of Israel. And Rabbi Kahana was very negative about that. And of course, we know that in his death, that was what he was doing in America, in New York, at the
Right.
time he was killed. Was talking about emergency aliyah, bringing the Jews back to the land. So, it's definitely worth going over, what the rabbi wrote in the book of Or Rayon, Jewish Idea. Talked about that towards the end of the book. It's very prevalent in his writings towards the end of the book of Or Rayon, and he's talking a lot about the redemption. He's talking about the land of Israel, and he has actually a whole chapter. Now he has a chapter on the land of Israel. He has a chapter on the commandment to live in the land of Israel. He talks a lot about the commandment that there are rabbis who want to try to claim that it's not a commandment and there's no obligation to live in the land, and he refutes them entirely. What do you know about that, Mayor?
I've heard that from rabbis in Toronto, in fact.
Really?
They don't seem to believe there's any obligation for Jews to live in Israel or to aspire to live in Israel, or they believe that you can make your Israel or your Jerusalem outside of Israel. And you know what? That's in stark contrast to one of the, I think, the central theme of the Parsha, in fact, that if you do not do this, that, and the other, that God will throw you out of the land. The Torah is the land of Israel centered, and that's it. And they want to deny that. And I guess that's why they were shocked when Theodor Herzl wrote the book, A Non-Religious Jew, The Jewish State, because that's it. That's the essence. And it's really the rabbis. It's almost like an embarrassment. It's really the rabbis that should beautify the mitzvah of living in Israel with all the pertinent reasons central to the Torah.
Rabbi Kahn
You
used
know
to say
what,
that. He says that's why
yeah.
the Zionist movement was irreligious people, because they didn't have all these all these opinions about, well, for pikuach nefesh, for saving yourself, you can't put yourself in risk and all this stuff. He says they tied to the irreligious Zionists, and that's why they succeeded building the state, not the religious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. There's no question about that.
It's unfortunate, because it's so contrary to everything that the Torah says and the rabbis' teachings, and then it's usually the sources that they use are relatively new sources. It's not, if you go back, and I've shown this to people. I says, you go back, the further you go back, the further you see that they're wrong, and that whole
Right.
basis are new sources that didn't exist, and you know and they don't and they shouldn't apply. If these new sources contradict what the original sources, the older sources say, it shouldn't apply.
Right.
And all kinds of things that were made up, convoluted stuff that was made up in Europe or wherever, it doesn't apply. It wasn't, the Torah wasn't given in Europe, and the Torah was given on Mount Sinai. It was given to be performed in the land. And I said, today I'm really promoting the idea of not learning any more of the Babylonian Talmud, but only the Jerusalem Talmud. And for that very reason, is because the Babylonian Talmud, I find, looks for ways not to do anything, whereas the Jerusalem Talmud basically is how to do. It's also the Jerusalem Talmud is dealing with things that happened in the land. Babylonian Talmud is basically just reporting things that they heard happened in the land.
Right.
But to try to get Jews to stop learning the Babylonian Talmud, or at least prefer the Jerusalem Talmud over the Babylonian Talmud, it's unbelievable. People prefer, they don't want to learn it. And I showed them through different cases where it makes so much more sense to learn the Jerusalem Talmud. So much more sense. So we're quagmired, as they say.
Right.
Here we go. We're coming off the mount now. Got here all the border police women over here guarding us.
Perfect.
I'd like to meet the one that was reinstated.
Right.
Tell her how much we appreciate her good work.
Absolutely.
Okay, we completed another weekly portion. This week, 2 portions. We got to meet Moshe Feiglin on Temple Mount. We heard the press service. We got blessed by the Kohanim. We heard some very serious stuff from the Kohen and from the rabbi, the Rosh Yeshiva, Rabbi Weber. Yeah, it's great, man. Great to come up to Temple Mount once a week and learn Torah up here and spread the word. The word is you got to come back to the land, because we got to build the temple here in Israel in Jerusalem on the Temple Mount. We're not going to build it, not in New York, and not
Nowhere.
in Toronto,
No.
nor in Oman in the Ukraine or anywhere else. Only here in Jerusalem on the Temple Mount.
Right.
And
Right.
that's our mission. And we heard today why it's so important. Because it's really, even if it's just one mitzvah, it's important, but it's a mitzvah that's connected to hundreds of mitzvahs, hundreds of commandments.
Right.
And it's the focal
Right.
point, and it's also the sanctification of God's name. It's saying Islam didn't replace Judaism. Islam has to go. Islam has to go. Certainly, it shouldn't be here. If it's in Saudi Arabia, who could care? I could care less. Sagur. So we're against replacement of Judaism in any way, shape, or form, whether it's the Gentiles who are trying to replace it or whether it's the Jews who are trying to replace it. We want the real thing.
Right.
That's what we're doing. The real thing.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Baruch, thank you. Thank you very much for,
next week is going to be, probably will be coming up on Thursday, I assume, because that Friday, the Temple Mount will be closed.
right.
Friday is the Jerusalem Independence Day. And will probably be a big crowd up here on Thursday. So we'll see either Wednesday or Thursday. We'll see what we'll be commemorating the liberation of Jerusalem.
That'll be exciting. Absolutely.
Okay.
Baruch, thank you very much.
All right. Take care.
We'll do it next week. Thank you.
You should broadcast this. It should be a podcast.
It is. I mean, it's just guys.
Okay. Thank you. Please share this.